Time is something that we have evolved to perceive as we do. By this I mean that as biological organisms, we must perceive time linearly and momentarily. Most of the organisms we know of have to perceive time this way, otherwise they would not be able to survive. If you are, for instance, a lion, you could not catch a gazelle if you could see everywhere it has been and is going to be. You have to see where it is in a single moment to catch it. The moment is all that truly exists for us in the material reality we inhabit. It is the only place we have been, the only place we are, and the only place we are going to be. The past exists only in our minds, and the future does not exist until it becomes the moment. That is not to say that we cannot observe the effects of the past or have a reasonable idea of what the future holds. We can, but only in the moment. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift, which is why we call it the present. It is suggested that if a being were to exist outside of our dimensional space-time, then it would see all of time happening in a single moment, infinitely. I would say that if, as I said on my video on fractals, the universe has a greater level of consciousness or perspective, then that consciousness would perceive time in this way. Time is relative to your state of mind, it is relative to scale and the perspective of the moment in which it is perceived. As a child, time seems to move slowly and paced, but as we grow older it seems to speed up faster and faster. If you have ever been in an accident, or an experience that heightens the adrenaline in your body, then you may have had the feeling that time is moving slower than normal. This is because in these heightened states, you are more aware of everything around you. Your body does this because there is more chance of survival if you can have more time to make split-second decisions. Like all other fractals, time appears to be the same across different scales, but from the different perspectives, it flows faster or slower. An ant probably sees time flow at the same pace we do from its perspective, but we see the ant moving faster than we would move, and it is most likely seeing us moving slower than we perceive ourselves. If an atom could perceive time, from its perspective it would seem like an eternity. And if the universe could perceive time, from its perspective, time would also seem like an eternity. The only difference is that the universe would see the infinite repetition of the smaller parts of itself. You can think about this in the way that you see the constant repetition of the actions of the cells and individual parts of your body. Endlessly they repeat their purpose, yet you can see it happening over and over again. This is the nature of the fractal perception of time. I have heard time described in its true form as being spherical and not linear. I, however, believe that time is actually a torus. At its end it begins in an infinite cycle. If you were to take the cross-section of a torus field, you would get the symbol of infinity. I do not believe this to be a coincidence. There is an anomaly that we have observed in the universe, and called the Great Attractor. A point in space that everything in our visible universe seems to be moving towards. I would posit that this is the centre of the torus, the end and the beginning of time. A black hole or singularity that everything is being pulled into and pushed away from. I once read a concept of what shape the universe could be. In this idea, it stated that if the universe is a circle that we are moving along, and we are moving faster than light, then when we looked in certain directions, we would actually be able to see forwards and backwards in time. The only problem would be that we would be able to see our own galaxy in different stages of its life, rendering it unrecognizable to us. This concept works too for the toroidal universe, and is admittedly a little crazy to think about, because it would suggest that when we see other galaxies, we may well be looking at ourselves in the past or future. Maybe there's only a few thousand galaxies, or 1,000,000 galaxies, but to us it would seem to be infinitely more. This makes some form of sense to me, because we know that when we observe things happening in space, by the time the light has reached us, it may have been millions if not billions of years since it actually happened. So you see, everything we observe that is far, far away is us seeing into the past, and maybe even the future. Of course this is simply a hypothesis, however the concept of the torus is something I will be elaborating on in a later episode. Our consciousness seems to exist outside of time. By this I mean our material selves exist in an ever-flowing moment, but our minds can flow in and out of it. When you sleep, you do not perceive time as you do when you are awake, no matter how long you sleep. You can dream something that seems like hours in the space of a matter of minutes. When we take psychedelics, one of the mainly noticeable experiences we have is time dilation. I believe this is because these substances force you into the moment and show you that the moment is the most important thing. It is an eternity in itself, and our day-to-day perception of time is an illusion needed to survive. I have read about people having experiences on DMT that seemed to them to last months, yet only 15 minutes or so had passed. Again, I will go into more details about these concepts in a later episode. Time is extremely relative and fractal. There is a problem we have, however, being beings that can perceive time in many different ways. When we worry and overthink, we take ourselves out of the moment and allow our minds to go into the past and future. This is not good for our mentality because it stops our minds from being present and able to experience this gift that we exist in. More often than not, the things we think about in these worried states are awash with negativity, so no matter how we think about things in this state, it will mostly be terrifying and bad. Doing this greatly affects you in reality, because it can stop you doing the things you want to do out of fear for what might happen to you in the future. This is a trap of our own creation. You must always try to stay present and in the moment. Thinking too much about what might be and could be is pointless, because the might and could does not exist. Only what is exists and should be contemplated, otherwise you risk harming the biological hardware you have evolved to possess. Dive into your past and contemplate your future, but remain aware that your view of the past and future are warped by your perspective. It is a loop, a trap that is all too easy to fall victim to. You can free yourself at any time. All it takes is for you to trust in the moment and find beauty, meaning and love in the things that you can observe in the conscious present, for it is the gift you only need unwrap. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episode.